Let's look at the different types of equipment used in the cooking center of a kitchen. Backing up just a smidge to define appliance. An appliance is a piece of equipment and we use it to complete a specific task. So a dishwasher, a refrigerator, a stove, like we're going to talk about today, are considered appliances. Typically, we would not consider a water heater or a toilet as an appliance. Those are plumbing fixtures. And we also need a basic definition of kitchen work centers. Your kitchen can be divided into 3 primary work centers. These are zones or areas where a particular task occurs. They are the cooking center, the food preservation center, and the cleanup center. So here we have an example of a cooking center, right, in this area of a kitchen. And in general, we're going to look at all the different types of equipment, their sizes, their clearances, and their connections. And the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what type of fuel is my cooking equipment going to use? There's 3 main options. We've got electric, or also called radiant heat, induction, which does use electricity, but is not the same thing as radiant heat, right? And we've got natural gas. So let's go back to that electric category. These types come in either a smooth glass top or the coils that you see in the image below, right? And electric ranges are slower to heat up, slower to cool down. The burners stay hot after being switched off, and typically you need 220 volt electricity. For your induction ranges, these ones use magnetic coils to heat your cookware, your pots, right? And the temperature adjustments happen immediately, right? So very fast reaction. The downside, what some people don't like about induction, is that it requires flat-bottomed magnetic cookware. And you also need 220 volt electricity for this one. Our final option is natural gas. Because you get some sensory feedback, i.e. you can see the flame, you can feel the flame, and also it's got an incredibly quick response to the controls. Natural gas is very popular with cooks. However, the downside is it is a major source of indoor air pollution. Natural gas ranges and ovens still need some electricity for their control panel, 110 volts. Is an all-electric kitchen required? So here in 2025, California Code does not currently require an all-electric residential kitchen. You absolutely can choose gas appliances. If you do, and if gas appliances are installed, our energy code requires installation of branch circuits for future electric. So if somebody decides to change, we want to have the electricity system in the home designed for that already, right? And if you were going to convert from gas to an electric kitchen, you'd probably go with an induction range. And here's an example of one here. This photo is showing how the induction system works. Because it's got that magnetic component, this induction cooktop is boiling water through sheets of newsprint, right? So it does not even burn the paper that's sitting on the burner. There's 3 major types of cooking center equipment. They are the range, the oven, and the stove. So a range is a combo piece. It's got both an oven and a stove, and we'll look in the next slide at a couple of different types. An oven is a closed chamber for cooking and baking, so there's no external burners. And a stove is a cooking appliance or equipment with external burners and no oven. Let's look at the ranges first. We've got 3 different types based on how they are installed. So starting with the left, we have a slide-in range, right? This one will sit flush with the counter. The sides of the appliance are not finished, and we're talking about the sides that are back kind of in here, hidden by the cabinets, right? And the oven controls for a slide-in range or the range controls, sorry, are typically right here on the front. Okay. Here is a freestanding range, and freestanding means it's unattached to any walls or cabinetry and the sides are finished. So if for some reason you didn't have cabinetry on one side, all right, it would still be a finished look. A difference with the freestanding versus the slide in is that the controls are on this back guard piece. So if you've got a range that has this pop-up piece in the back, it's going to be a freestanding one versus this one right here, right, which does not have that piece in the back that comes up. Our third type is a little less common. It's an older style. It's called a drop-in range. Notice there's no bottom drawer, and it's mounted on a base cabinet rather than sitting all the way to the floor like our other two types here. 30 inches wide is your most common size for a range, although 36, 48, and 60-inch sizes are available. All right, I believe this one that I'm showing right here is a 60-inch range. Okay. And the height is typically 36, 37 inches-ish. It matches the countertop or just a smidge above. Your depth, a 28-inch depth is most common, right? And anywhere from 24 to 30 inches is how those range. So take a look at, I've kind of zoomed in on this section right here. This cabinet right here is 24 inches deep. So the countertop is typically 25, maybe 25 and a half inches deep. And so you can see that this range pops out. So it's maybe 27-inch range, but then it's got an extra 28, maybe even 29 by the time you take into account the different handles and the things that pop out from it. Let's talk about a stove, and remembering that this one has external burners and no enclosed oven. There's two major types. They are a cooktop and a range top. So a cooktop is self-contained and it drops into a counter cutout. So if you see a piece like this where the countertop comes in front of your stove, that one's a cooktop. Right? The range top, on the other hand, has front controls like this that drop down over the edge, and it sits within a lowered cabinet. Right? So if the countertop stops, and then we've got the front of your stove and then the countertop continues, that one is a range top. Standard size for this is typically 30-inch wide, but 36 and wider do exist. And your depth is going to vary from 19 to 22 inches-ish, designed to fit within that 24-inch cabinet depth. Your height is going to vary, and when I talk about height, I'm meaning from the countertop height down into the cabinets. And so I included this picture here so you can see. First of all, take a look at this fully installed image, and is this one a cooktop or a range top? Let's see if you know the difference. All right, if you answered range top, you're correct. And then here is the same piece kind of while it's being installed. And so you can see the depth of the box below it. All right, so this would be kind of your deeper version, maybe a 4-inch version. All right, and so when we talk about the height of the cooktop or range top, we're really talking about how far down it protrudes into the cabinet. Let's look at a couple more examples. Up here on the top, this one is going to be a cooktop in the installation process, right? It's been placed into a cutout hole in this plywood, and then the countertop will be installed around it. And on the bottom, we've got a couple of examples of what could go below a cooktop or range top, right? So on the right-hand side, we've got a fixed panel, right, so that we have room for the cooktop below, and then we've got some drawers. A lot of people like to put their pots and pans in these drawers. Or over here is an example of a cooktop that must have a very shallow height, because underneath it we've got some ovens installed. Your cooking equipment needs some clearances. Let's start with the horizontal clearances, kind of in the left to right direction. The recommendations vary based on your fuel type. So if you're using an electric range, they are not required to have any extra horizontal clearance. 0 required. But up to 6 inches is recommended, just to avoid some heat damage on your side surfaces. Your gas ranges, on the other hand, typically require 1 to 6 inches minimum. For all the different fuel types, you don't need any clearance below the cooktop, so it's allowed to bring cabinets directly next to your cooking equipment, as long as you're below the cooking surface. Now the NKBA has some recommendations for this that are a little bit wider. They recommend at least 3 inches of horizontal clearance to any protected non-combustible surface, and the major example of that would be a tiled wall. All right, and much wider clearance, 18 inches minimum, to an unprotected combustible surface. That might be a wall cabinet or just a simple drywall wall surface. Let's look at some examples. So over here in the biggest picture, we have an example of that 18-inch clearance. So from the side of this gas range to an unprotected surface, which is the side of this cabinet right here, you have that 18 inches of clearance. Right? And it's a good idea anyway, because now you've got some room to work on the countertop here. Here's an example up here. We saw this picture just a couple of slides ago, but now we're looking at the clearance between this gas cooktop and this tiled wall. All right, so that is an example of a protected surface, and we would recommend at least 3 inches clearance. It looks like it's got it. Here is an example that does not meet the NKBA guidelines. So we've got a gas cooktop right here. Here is an unprotected surface. It's the side of a cabinet right here. And it looks like it's about 3 inches clearance. All right. NKBA would recommend a full 18 inches in this case. Let's move on to vertical clearances. Now we're talking the up and down direction. All right. And it's recommended to provide at least 24 inches above your range to any protected non-combustible surface. And the most common example here is a ventilation hood. Right? And so we can see that in this example here, we've got at least we've got at least 24, yes. If you're going to have anything else above your range, something unprotected, a combustible surface, for example, an upper cabinet with no hood, you would provide at least 30 inches. Now, over here in the right-hand side, I've got an example here that's a little tricky, because you would think, oh, they're too close to these upper cabinets, but it turns out that there is a recessed hood hidden in here, and that is indeed a non-combustible surface. Moving to our third type of cooking equipment, it's an oven. Remembering that an oven is an enclosed chamber for cooking. We've got no external burners. And we've got 3 different configurations of ovens shown on this page. Taking a look starting from the left, a single oven is pretty self-explanatory. And here we have an example of it installed in some tall cabinets. And then below, we've got an example of a single oven installed below a cooktop. Moving to a double oven, this is either going to be 2 individual devices stacked on top of each other, or what's shown in the picture, this is 1 device with 2 cooking chambers. And you can tell because there's only one control panel there. Moving to our combination oven, this is going to be a set of stacked devices, set of stacked ovens with two different types of cooking. So it could be a steam oven, it could be a convection oven, could be a microwave oven, but we've got a combination of two different things going on. How big are ovens? Typically they're 30 inches wide. Other sizes do exist, but they are ovens are more standardized than some of the other equipment. So 30 inches is very standard. The height is going to vary by manufacturer and type. They could be somewhere around 29 or 30 for a single, somewhere around 50 for a double. Your depth is going to fit within a 24-inch cabinet depth. One particular type of oven that I want to call your attention to are microwave ovens. And we've got a couple of different configurations of them shown here. Starting on the left with a vent hood microwave combo. Right? So these are typically installed over a range, right, in the location where a vent hood would be, and they incorporate that function within them. Very popular for smaller kitchens where space concerns are key. And you can also install a microwave as a wall oven. We've got an example of it here. And you can also install them under the countertop. All right, so an under cabinet microwave would look like this. This one, it does have a swinging door. And they also exist to have a pull-out drawer type instead. Thanks everyone. In this video, we took a look at all of the different types of cooking equipment.